Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we're going to start off with this on tonight's show, has hinted towards running as an independent, or at least this story broke with Mediaite, which is a liberal leaning, it's supposed to be actually a moderate website. It was founded by Dan Abrams, who claims to be more of a moderate. Um, However, it really obviously leans left. And it is sourced as leaning left on all of those, fact-checking sites that say which side do sites lean towards. But nonetheless, Mediaite somehow got this exclusive that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is planning to announce an independent run, and they claim that he's going to be announcing this independent run October 9th at his upcoming event. And so there is some there with that, because he then later followed up after this news broke that he might be switching away from the Democratic Party, ditching the Democratic Party, something we did not think he would do, because he fought against people like myself when I said, I think you should maybe consider not running as a Democrat because they're not going to give you a fair shake. And now he's seen they're not going to give him a fair shake. And now he's talking about apparently running as an independent. I want to go back to my interview that I did with him back in April. So I had him on this show talking to us about his candidacy. This was back in April. This was 2 weeks after he had announced that he was running for president as a Democrat. My big criticism of him was that he was running as a Democrat. Later on, a lot of people on his team talked to him about me. And I got word from members of his team that he was like, yeah, I really like her, but she told me I shouldn't run as a Democrat. She told me I should maybe even run as a Republican. Well, now, or an independent. Now he's clearly changing his tune on that. We'll see what we're going to try to get him back on the show. Definitely want to have a conversation with him if he truly officially announces that he's running as an independent. We'll revisit this conversation. But I want to play for you the clips from that interview. We're going to start off this one where, I lay it out as to why I think he should maybe not run as a Democrat. Watch this. Does this give you second thoughts about running as a Democrat? That's my big criticism about your campaign, is that you're running as a Democrat. You won't give it up. I feel like you should run as an independent. They're not going to give you the platform and the time that you deserve, especially for a party that claims they're all about democracy. This seems to be antithetical to democracy. How are you going to get around this blockade that they're clearly putting up?
I will point out that if I did run as an independent, there are no primaries there, and there are no debates either. But I'm running. The Democratic Party is my home. I feel like the Democratic Party has lost its bearings. It's become the war party. It's become the party of censorship. It's become the party of corporate control and big pharma. It's become the party of fear, and that I need to do whatever I can to reclaim the party to what it used to be, the party of JFK, of FDR, of Robert Kennedy, and so I'm very peaceful with the choice that I've made. I hope that President Biden will change his mind, and that he will engage in debates and or town halls or retail politics of some kind. I think the people of this country deserve that. I intend to run a campaign against Mr. Biden or President Biden that is congenial, that is respectful, that has decorum. I have known Joe Biden for 40 years. I have a friendship with him, as does everybody in my family. But I differ with him, I would say, fiercely on some of the issues. And so, this one is not going to be a personal battle, but it's going to be an ideological battle, and it's going to be a battle about policies. And I'm going to take it to the Democratic Party in whatever way I can.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not going against Joe Biden only. You're going against the entire Democratic machine that's probably lost its way, not just this election cycle or the previous election cycle, but many years ago. Okay, so he lays out what he thinks went wrong with the Democratic Party, but he says Democrats are my home, so I want to stay a Democrat. Now, I then later on asked him if he thought about running as a Republican, because he does have a lot of support with Republicans. So watch this. Do you ever think that maybe you should have run as a Republican? And I say this because Um, I feel like you would maybe have a better shot at actually going further on using the Republican Party the way that Trump used it. I don't think he was a true Republican. In fact, he was a Democrat for a long time. Switched because he figured it would be easier to infiltrate that party and actually be able to um, get the nomination, which he was right. He was able to do that. And in doing that, we've seen a shift on the Republican side of the aisle where topics that were never, ever popular with the GOP are suddenly popular. Things like wanting to end wars, going against corporate capture of the government. These are things that, even though the establishment GOP hasn't really, they're definitely pushing back on, they're definitely doing everything they can to halt the populism, the rise of populism on the Republican side. But it's malleable. There's room there, and they do seem to have a more democratic process. So, what did you even consider possibly? Because many of your messages, I think, resonate not just with Democrats. We've seen your polling numbers increase on the Democratic side with voters that voted for Joe Biden. Now, do you have the latest on that? I know that they went from 10% to 14%. I'm sure they're just climbing, which is probably why Democrats are saying no debates. We don't want any debates. We don't want any actual challenge. But you do have a lot of support from independents, from Republicans, and running as a Democrat, there's a lot of Republicans that aren't going to switch over to the Democratic Party in order to vote in the primary. Some states it's open, but other states it's not. So, did you even maybe consider that? Because you do have so much support on both sides of the aisle, actually, and especially amongst independents.
No, I really feel, Kim, like I need to reclaim the Democratic Party, and I feel like I have an opportunity to maybe do the same thing with the Democratic Party that Trump did with the Republican Party, which is to remind it of its populist roots and to reinvigorate the Democratic Party as a populist party. So that's and I think that's important. I think that the path that the Democratic Party is on right now is a bad path. I think that it's shocking to me that it's become the war party. I mean, they're both parties of the war party, and that it's the party promoting censorship.
Well, good luck with that, right? Trying to remind them they continue to go further and further, I think, towards the censorship and towards just some insanity, which we're going to be getting to later on in the show. But here he is again. I'm trying to push him again on running as a Democrat and even on whether or not he would endorse Joe Biden. And this is the last one from this. So this is what he had to say.
And getting rid of New Hampshire is a bad, bad, bad optics, I think, for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I don't think it's optics. I think that that's I think that they're no longer a Democratic Party, despite the name, and this is very purposeful. I don't think it's anything about optics. I don't think they want a true democracy, and I don't think they have for a really long time. Actually, when we go back and look through the party and how the party's operated, I don't think that they hold. I mean, even you go back to the 60s and it's, they'll just put in a candidate and say, we don't care what the people want. This is the person that we're putting in. So, yeah, I mean, I think it goes beyond optics, but look, thank you so much for being here and best of luck running as a Democrat. You know how I feel about that. One thing that I do have to ask you before we end this is, in the end, and this is what happened in 2020, in the end, when they say, well, Joe Biden's the candidate and that's it, are you going to endorse him for president when you
I'm in
decide,
it.
if you decide you're not going to run?
I'm in it to win it, so I'm not thinking of a plan B.
Okay. My only advice is don't do that. If it comes down to that, and the Democratic Party is just saying we're not going to put you on the ticket, and that's that. Don't endorse Joe Biden. Pivot. Go independent. Do set. Just. But the last thing you should do is say, yeah, this is okay. Fine. Concede. Don't do it. That's just the one thing that I would say. But I
How come you
definitely
have, how come, how come you have
go
no
ahead.
faith in my candidacy, Kim?
I don't have any faith in the Democratic Party. I have a lot of faith in your campaign. I have no faith at all, zero, zilch, none in the Democratic Party. I don't think that they're going to allow you to become the candidate. I think that they've already shown that. and they're going to put Joe Biden on the ticket, and none of us are going to have a choice about it. I think the only thing you could do is your campaign could continue to grow in momentum, of course, which you are. That would be challenging to the Democratic Party, but they will ensure that the establishment media suppresses that information so that they don't see that you're actually growing, because they know that that would have an avalanche effect, that when people start to see that you're actually growing in the polls and that more people are interested in your message, then others are wanting to check that out. They're going to suppress that. I just have no faith at all in them. So I think it's inevitable that Joe Biden's going to end up being the candidate, and you're going to have to pivot. And that might not be such a bad thing. I think ultimately you could win this. I don't know if on the Democratic ticket, I get it. Dennis Kucinich is the same way. He doesn't want to give up the Democratic Party, but I think the Democratic Party gave you up. And so what are you going to do? They broke up with you. You at some point have to accept it. And this is one of those times, I think that, but hey, the challenge is helpful for press, I think, to continue challenging Joe Biden. I do think that helps from a media perspective, of course. They want to see, oh, this, you're being censored, you're being silenced, you're not being allowed onto a debate stage with him. So I think that is actually good for your campaign for a while, but then there's going to be a period of time when it isn't. And I hope you pivot. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, I'm hoping you're not such a great soothsayer, Kim, and that the
I
future
I,
is
I
good.
understand. I totally get it. I get your perspective. I'm a realist. That's who I am. So, but
I think,
yeah.
look, you make a compelling argument, and I hope that the situation in our country is not as grim as you portray it, but it may be. We'll see.
Well, it turns out I was a truth sayer in that moment back in April, because he is likely pivoting. We'll wait until October 9th to find out for sure if he is truly pivoting. But watch this. He put this out there. So after the Mediaite article came out saying exclusive, RFK Jr. is going to be running as an independent. I'm a little hurt that I didn't get that exclusive. I'm not going to lie. But nonetheless, this is what he then put out, telling everybody, you'll really want to watch this announcement October 9th. So watch this.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be in Philadelphia on October 9th to make a major announcement at the very birthplace of our nation. I'm not going to tell you right now exactly what that announcement will be. I can say, though, that if you've been waiting to come to one of my public events, this will be the one to come to. I'll be speaking about a sea change in American politics and what your part and my part is in that change. A lot of Americans who had previously given up any hope that real change would ever come through the American electoral process have begun to find new hope in my candidacy. And I understand the deeply felt concern that people have about the way corruption has overtaken our government. It's in the executive branch, it's in Congress, it's in the leadership of both political parties. And so some people feel a kind of cynicism alongside the hope, or they lose hope entirely because they've been disappointed so many times. I want to tell you now what I've come to understand after 6 months of campaigning. There is a path to victory. The hope we are feeling isn't some kind of trick of the mind. We all recognize that there's a genuine possibility of national transformation, and its source is the goodness of the American people. Our government may be crooked, but our people are kind, brave, and caring. That goodness is stronger than the divisions that are keeping us all apart. I see it every day on the campaign trail, and the more I see it, the more I trust it. And the more I trust it, the more the path to victory becomes visible. So how are we going to win against the established Washington interests? It's not through playing the game by the corrupt rules that the corrupt powers and the vested interests have rigged to keep us all in their thrall. Instead, we're going to have to rewrite the assumptions and change the habits of American politics. We're going to tap into a mighty surge of people power to reclaim an honest, peaceful, just, and prosperous America. So I am inviting you to join me in Philadelphia on October 9th. There I'll share with you our path to the White House and how we can all participate in healing our nation.
So it sounds like it. It sounds like he's going to be announcing that he's stepping away from the Democratic Party. They've treated him like crap. They're not going to allow him to debate Joe Biden. They're also rigging the primary elections by moving the first state to South Carolina, where Joe Biden will do well. They're by-stepping a bunch of states in order to do that. And they're just clearly showing that they're not wanting to run true Democratic campaign process for the people to actually make a decision. They've decided who their candidate is, and they don't want anybody else to interfere with that. So it's smart for him to now go independent and to actually make that pivot that I was hoping he would make. We did speak, if you remember, back in July with Christina Tobin. She is a ballot access coordinator, and she mentioned that if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or anybody was going to make an independent run, they would need to essentially make that decision by February. So luckily, we're in October. So he has plenty of time to get his name on the ballot in all 50 states. The reason why she said by February is because every state has its own ballot access laws for independents to run. So when you're a Republican or a Democrat, it's pretty easy. You run, you win your primary, and then the party puts forward your name, and they have a certain set of rules with each state on how they put candidates' names on the ballot for people to vote in the general election. Well, when it comes to being an independent, the process is more cumbersome, they make it more difficult, and it's just overall a lot more challenging. It takes a lot of power. Like when one group needs, let's say the Republican Party or Democratic Party only needs 5,000 petition signatures to get a candidate on a ballot, an independent needs to collect 50,000 signatures in order to get their name on that same ballot. So they put up all of these barriers for independents. And of course, the people who make these decisions on whose name can appear on a ballot, those people are Democrats and Republicans in each state. So each state's legislature, run by Democrats or Republicans, depending on the state, makes the rules. And of course, they don't want third-party challengers coming in and vying for the power and disrupting the status quo. So they make it really, really difficult. Because of that difficulty, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would have to start early. And if he's starting now, he has plenty of time. He needs to collect overall across the country, depending on the state, an overall number of about 800,000 ballots. 800,000 signatures on petitions in each state. It's not every state. Some states require more signatures than others, but it all works out to almost 1 million people need to sign a petition in order to put Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the ballot in every single state as an independent. He does it early enough, he has time to do that, because not only do you need to collect the signatures, they have to be verified. You have to go through this entire process, and it's very, very limiting. Unlike if you were to just run in a primary for Democrats and Republicans and win, it's pretty straightforward. As an independent, it's really not very straightforward. But that is why somebody like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could challenge the two-party duopoly. Somebody needs to have enough power. Somebody needs to have enough star power. They need to have a big enough name, and they do have to have money. They need to be fundraising a lot of money in order to do this, because you've got to get a lot of people involved to collect those signatures and then verify those signatures to ensure your name shows up on that general ticket as an independent in the general election. My expectation is he will do it. We will see Joe Biden, we will see Donald Trump, and we will see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the general election ballot if that's the way this goes. Now, I'm not sure it's going to play out quite like that. I've got my suspicions that it may go a different way. But I want to go back to this Mediaite article just really quickly before we get into that. Let me just read from this a little bit. And again, this is a left-leaning article, so they're saying smeary things. But they say that Kennedy's campaign machine is now planning attack ads against the Democratic National Committee in order to pave the way for his announcement in Philadelphia about running as an independent, according to a text reviewed by Mediaite. So they apparently got this information by somebody who leaked it to them. I can't imagine that they ended up getting this as an exclusive, because when you listen to this next line, Kennedy, a notorious anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist, challenging incumbent President Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. Listen how they say that. Notorious anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist. He has been flirting with a third-party run in recent weeks. The New York Times reported last week that he met with the chair of the Libertarian Party, raising the prospect of a departure from the party that decades ago became synonymous with his family name. Kennedy remains far behind Biden in the polls, yet, while the Times reported Democrats worry that a third party run by Mr. Kennedy could draw votes away from Mr. Biden and help elect former President Donald Trump, it is unclear whether such a run would hurt the current president more than the Republican nominee. Indeed, polls show Republicans have a far more favorable view of Kennedy than Democrats. As the National Review's Jim Garrity pointed out in July, when a survey asked New Hampshire Democrats to describe Kennedy in one word, the top responses were crazy, dangerous, insane, conspiracy, and unknown. Where did they get those ideas, I wonder? Maybe from the MSM that gaslights people? Conservative media, on the other hand, has been far more supportive of Kennedy's campaign as well. Fox News host Greg Gutfeld proposed that the political scion run as a third party in July, saying, quote, I think he should run as a third party candidate because I do think he would win, is because his party's radical elements, what we call the woke, have embraced this fascist clampdown on language, Gutfeld said. Yeah, he's not wrong. So let's look at the numbers actually. This is the big scare. And a lot of people see him running as an independent. They're thinking, great, another third party spoiler. He's going to be another Ross Perot. He's going to take the candidate, he's going to take the votes away from Donald Trump, or he's going to take him away for Joe Biden. Everybody's got their speculation on which one he's going to take those votes from. I want to show you this poll. This is an Echelon Insights poll. This actually did, now most of the polls that are circulating out there just pit Kennedy against Biden because he's been running as a Democrat. So they just say, oh, he's got anywhere from, they'll show as low as 11% up to 20% favorability amongst Democrats. But this poll actually looked at the three candidates if they were running in a general election. And what you would see is Biden getting 36% of the vote, Trump getting 40% of the vote, and Kennedy getting 14%, leaving 10% undecided in this poll. So who is he taking more from? In this instance, it looks like Trump would still not, he still would not win. He would not win. I want to make that clear. He wouldn't win. Nobody would win because of the way the Electoral College is set up. But if Kennedy is going to take votes, it's potentially from the Democrats more than it is from the Republicans. But I would say it's probably going to be evenly split down the middle. You've got a lot of Kennedy love on the East Coast, a lot of Massachusetts, a lot of New England, New Yorkers. You've got a lot of just built-in love for Kennedys, and a lot of people who would love more than just the nostalgia of having a Kennedy in the White House again just makes them feel giddy with joy. You also have a lot of Republicans who really like Kennedy because he is very much saying populist, he's speaking populist positions. So I've spoken about this on the show before, but in that particular scenario, if we were to hold the general election and those candidates got those votes with 10% missing, you would end up with 215 votes going to Donald Trump of the Electoral College. You need 270 to win. You have to get 270 to win. So it's not like, oh, Trump wins, he got 40%, Biden only got 36%, and Kennedy got 14%. It doesn't work like that. You have to you have to get past the post of that 270. You have to have that split. Then it goes to Congress. So in that scenario, Bobby Kennedy would get 75 Electoral College votes. That's if he wins states outright, or there's certain states that will share their electoral votes depending on, they'll split the votes with the candidates based on how they did. Trump would end up with 215 Electoral College votes, and Biden would have 194 electoral votes with 54 in the mix. And that 54 would, if they all went to Trump in this scenario, those 10% that are undecided, if they all went to Trump, he would not still get 270, right? 215 and 54. He'd be at 269. You need 270 to win. And that's just the rules. And if you don't get the 270 to win, then it goes to Congress and they decide. So this being said, let's look at the current projected electoral map. This is what they have set for 2024, of what current polls are showing, looking at just Trump and Biden, or Republicans and Democrats. This is what they have with this. They've got 62 votes, electoral votes. They've put in the kind of light yellow gray color there. They've got states that they're not sure which way they'd go. They would be the swing states this coming time. This is what they project. It's not like the pollsters are really right, though. but we'll play along. So blue states are the Democratic states. Red states obviously go Republican, and there's a bunch of undecided states there. That is 100. They put 235 going for Trump in this scenario, let's say 241 going to Biden, 62 undecided. Let's just say Kennedy pulls those 62. And it's maybe possible because you got to think New Hampshire's pissed. They're being now skipped over by the Democratic Party for so that Joe Biden could go and win in South Carolina. Nevada's being skipped. Iowa's being skipped. Those Iowa's going red in this scenario, but Nevada, New Hampshire might say, you know what, we're going to go Bobby Kennedy because he's actually still wanting to have like a fair democratic process. It's unclear which states would go for Kennedy and or the states that do split electoral college votes, but let's just play along. He would take votes, but it would be from both candidates and it would ultimately end up breaking the duopoly, which a lot of us would love to see more than anything, is busting it wide open. And then it gets shoved off to Congress, and Congress has to make a decision. However, and let's actually look at, let's go ahead and look at the one time that this happened in the past. This happened back in 1912 when Woodrow Wilson was running against Taft, who was the sitting president, but he was unpopular at the time. And Teddy Roosevelt came back along. He'd already been president, came back along and said, I'm running again. And he ended up what happening was he split the Republican vote with Taft. He did win a couple of states. Wilson ultimately ended up winning all of the states, and he ended up the clear winner, ended up being president of the United States. A really bad one at that, but he was president of the United States. However, in this climate, yes, it's very similar. Taft was a really unpopular president at that time. Biden is a really unpopular president at that time. Trump would actually be like the Wilson in this situation. Biden would be the Taft, and Teddy Roosevelt would be the Bobby Kennedy. However, I don't think it would play out quite like this, simply because Democrats don't seem to care. Right, we're at a time period where there's a lot of division, and Democrats seem to turn a blind eye. It's vote blue no matter who, and it doesn't matter what they've done. It doesn't matter. I don't care if they're literally cheering Nazis. I don't care if they're literally becoming authoritarian and censoring everybody. I love them. They're the ones who are truly for democracy, even though they're totally making it to where challengers can't actually participate in the electoral system. They are the ones fighting for democracy and freedom. And you got a lot of brainwashed people out there really, truly gobbling that up. So the map would look different. There's a real chance that Bobby Kennedy makes it to where no one gets past the post. No one gets that 270. In that situation, I think the analysts, we've got a lot of, back in 1912, there weren't as many political analysts as there are today. There's a lot of sophisticated analysts who get paid millions of dollars to look at the trends and figure out what's going on. And my guess is, I'm going to guess that what would happen is as Bobby Kennedy gets going in this, he's going to be offered some vice president positions. And I believe he'll be offered the VP potentially with Donald Trump. I think the Republicans will see the writing on the wall. I think Democrats might as well. There's actually a possibility Democrats wake up and they say, oh my gosh, if Bobby Kennedy runs as an independent, he is going to literally split the vote to where we're not going to have anybody get past that 270, so it ends up going to Congress, and in which case they'd have to then play the odds there. Which way is Congress going to go? Congress is probably going to go to Donald Trump. There's just more red states than there are blue states. In that situation, each state gets one vote. And so it's not divided in the same way, like California gets more votes than like New Hampshire. I believe it's just one vote per state in that situation. And so the Republican would likely win. That being said, Democrats might see that in their analysis and they might say, oh crap, if we don't bring Bobby Kennedy onto the Biden ticket, wouldn't that be something? Then we are going to lose. And so our best play is to add Kennedy as VP with Biden. That would be something. I don't think Democrats will do that. I don't think they're smart enough. I think, however, the Trump campaign might. And I think Trump might extend a VP branch to Kennedy, and I think it's possible Kennedy takes it. There he is with Trump and with Pence. He doesn't really like Trump. I don't think he likes I think he likes Biden as a person, but maybe Trump more politically they're aligned. I think it would be a good ticket. I think Trump Kennedy would be a very, very difficult ticket to beat. I think it would be very difficult to um, somehow, somehow make that. I think it'd be a very. Let me just say, I'm just going to say it'd be a very difficult ticket to beat in that particular scenario. Some people are floating around other ideas. They think if Kennedy goes for it, maybe he'll add like Tulsi Gabbard as his VP. Some people are really hoping and praying for that. They've been putting it out there into the world of Tulsi Gabbard as Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s VP. That would be a losing ticket. I'm not going to lie. That would be a losing ticket. They're both just not popular enough with the general population to bring in the votes necessary. I think you could put Tulsi with Trump, or you could put Kennedy with Trump, and you'd have a better shot. Kennedy with Trump is a much, much stronger ticket. That's just my analysis. And what do I know? I'm not a truth sayer, or maybe I am. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But that is what's going on with that. And we're going to keep our eye out. And we're, of course, going to invite him back on the show to have a conversation when he does inevitably announce his independent run. So that is the latest with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. maybe going independent. Let's keep our fingers crossed. That's a good move. All right, guys, let me tell you about Lean, which is a great product from Brick House Nutrition. You know them through Field of Greens. They're the makers of Field of Greens. And they make really, really high quality products. They're, natural, so you don't have to worry about big pharma getting in your body or anything like that. Lean is a really cool product because it really tackles the trifecta of how we burn fat, how we lose weight. The first thing is lowering blood sugar. We all know that we're living in a diabetic nation, and it's because we're just laden with all sorts of carbs and sugars, and sometimes we can't even escape it because it's like snuck into all of our foods. So they lower the blood sugar levels, which helps you shed the fat. It actually metabolizes fat. It uses fat as energy. It tells your body to do that rather than burning muscle, which a lot of times happens. And it suppresses your appetite, which you're gonna need if you want to lose weight. Because let's face it, as our stomachs get bigger and bigger, we want to like totally gorge out on all kinds of carbs. And this product helps you not crave those cravings. It helps you lower that insulin, which also helps curb the cravings, and it burns that fat off your body so that you can lean down. So check out this product. You can get 15% off your first order. Just head to fieldofgreens.com, search for it there. You can put this in your cart. You can put the Field of Greens product in your cart. They've got a lot of other products. Check them out. Then enter the promo code Kim, and you will get 15% off your first order. Check it out. I love these guys at Brick House Nutrition. They are a really high quality company with really high quality ingredients. So I do feel a difference when I use their products. I don't say that about everything, but I really do. And the people I know who've used their products say the same thing.